Welcome to episode 167 of the XS Noize Podcast. I'm Mark Millar. Thanks for listening. In this episode, I have the pleasure of sitting down with James Walsh from Starsailor to delve into the captivating details of their latest album, Where the Wild Things Grow. In the previous episode, I spoke to Loz and Steve from Ride about their new album, Interplay. So check it out, and if you like the podcast, please subscribe on your favourite listening platform, give us a rating, and leave a comment. Starsailor make a triumphant return with Where the Wild Things Grow, their highly anticipated album after a 6-year hiatus. In this interview, James Walsh provides deep insights into the creation of the album, delving into the intricate process of songwriting. Additionally, we take a nostalgic journey through the band's back catalogue of albums, exploring James's personal highlights and discovering his all-time favourite Starsailor songs. Join us for a captivating conversation as we invite you to relax and immerse yourself in the XS Noize Podcast, featuring James Walsh from Starsailor. So hi James, welcome back to the XS Noize Podcast.
It's good to be here.
It's great to have you, always. Starsailor returns with Where the Wild Things Grow, your first album in 6 years. Now you only released your last solo album, Common Good, last year, so why was it time to go back into Starsailor?
I guess we'd been working on the songs off and on for this album for quite a while, really, for a couple of them pre-pandemic. So there was always that intention to kind of, and especially since we'd been back playing since 2014, but we'd only actually put out one album of new material with All This Life. We thought, although the old songs will always be the biggest draw for people to come and see us, and we really respect that that's what's kind of put us on the map. We don't want to become too like 100% of a nostalgia act. We do want to kind of, if only for our own sort of enjoyment of playing together and creating together as musicians, we want to keep that creative, keep those creative juices flowing as well. And yeah, it just felt like the right sort of time and the right set of songs to really get that up and running again.
Well, there's plenty of future classics, I'm sure, on this new album, which we'll get into in a minute. But as a songwriter, I mean, you're always constantly writing. When writing songs, how do you separate what's a solo song and what's a Starsailor song?
I'm not sure, really. I kind of get into a mode. Like if I know that we've arranged to meet up and jam, or we're in the studio even, I just get into a mode of like, I need to have something ready, the seed of something or a whole song or whatever it may be, so that we've got something to work from. So that then I kind of have my Starsailor hat on then. And I think the songs evolve quite a lot with the band as well. Like their creative input can't be underestimated in terms of how much the songs can transform from a sort of drum beat or a bass line or melodically from the keyboards. It can totally transform sort of where I'd imagined a song and where it ends up going.
Did you go into the recording of Where the Wild Things Grow with any preconceived ideas about how it should sound and the kind of songs you wanted to write about? Or did you just have a load of songs sitting there and you thought, right, well, these will do?
Yeah, I think almost subconsciously, like the lyrical and the musical sort of themes of the album, although it wasn't premeditated, they do all sort of fit together fairly well. And lyrically, these sort of came about for me personally, being in a kind of transitional period between, I got divorced a few years ago, and I've started a new relationship, and we've got a toddler together. So they're sort of massive life changes, and that's definitely informed the record. And also that kind of, conversely, that sort of relationship and togetherness, but also the isolation of the pandemic, and that little window of time where I wasn't married anymore and I wasn't in a new relationship yet, where you are kind of feeling a bit lost and isolated and wondering what sort of path your life is going to take next. So that there's that, like I say, that transitional period of something ending, something else starting to begin, and being in that hopeful, excited, and slightly worried state.
The album was produced by Rick McNamara from Embrace. So how did he get involved, and what did he bring to the sessions?
He actually did the last album as well. He did All This Life. So there was definitely a case of like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it kind of thing, as far as the producer goes. And I think because he's a musician as well, primarily, although he's an amazing producer, his main sort of talent and creativity is in being a fellow musician and helping us to kind of realize the vision that we had for the album and putting his input into it. I think that's why we felt kind of comfortable with going with the same producer, because he's not someone who has a specific style of production, or we knew that the album wasn't going to sound the same, because he's very much someone who's quite what's the word, like I say, he's quite experimental and quite able to help you realize your vision rather than impose too much of his own stamp on things.
Well, there's so many great songs on the album. Let's talk about some. The album kicks off with a great start with the song Into the Wild. I love at the 3-minute mark when the harmonica kicks in, then there's the organ, and then the driving drum beat, and then the backing vocals. It's very bluesy.
Yeah, I think it's funny. Like there are a few songs on the album that I really took control on, I guess, and had a real vision for. And then there were others that I obviously believed were strong enough for the album. But one of the other band members kind of took the mantle in terms of the sonic direction, and Into the Wild is one that the bass player James Stelfox really drove, and kind of had a sonic vision for how he wanted it to sound. And him and Ben, the drummer, are very much the side of the band that leans on the heavier things. Like they want to make things as heavy as possible, but staying within the realms of kind of the Starsailor sound. They want to push that envelope as much as possible. And I think this song kind of benefited from that. When I presented it to the band, it was more like a kind of Elliott Smith, very dark and brooding, and I put a little double track vocal on the demo, and these kind of not in a way that upset me in any way, because I thought, oh, that's an interesting thing to do with it, but they sort of tore that up and were like, no, this song would sound much better as a real sort of rocker, basically. Tony Doggan, who plays with Spiritualized, who Stel also plays with, he came in and did some guitar, and the backing vocals towards the end as well of Lucy Jules. It all kind of adds to the mix.
So were you happy the way it turned out in the end then?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think that's one of the important things with music and recording an album, is not to get too attached to the demos or too attached to a way that you think a song needs to sound. I think once you've got that sort of bedded in anyway, it's always there to go back to, and it does no harm to try and take something in a different direction and see if that works as well.
I understand that you've already played Heavyweight live. It's about Punch Drunk Love. You sing being kicked around the world, and it's the greatest feeling of all. Yeah. I love the distorted guitars, and again the background vocals, which are very Beatlesque, and it's a short one at over 3 minutes. Is that what you were aiming for with the background vocals, or is that just something I picked up on?
Yeah, there's definitely a Beatles influence in there, that sort of Anya Bird can sing kind of thing. But yeah, I guess that kicked around the world bit was totally transformed the song. Really, we didn't have that until quite late in the day, and then as soon as that came in, it really turned it from something fairly heavy and dark into just more of a pop song, really.
My favourite song on the album is the title track, Where the Wild Things Grow. Now, you're really a master at writing melancholic songs. Do those kinds of songs come easy to you?
Yeah, I guess so. I think those emotions are easier to convey as well in a genuine way that isn't too sort of saccharine and sentimental. So yeah, I'm quite proud of that song as well, because it is quite ethereal and otherworldly, and I always sort of joke about how frustrating it is to kind of write a song, and be really pleased with it and think, oh yeah, I'm happy with that, but then think, oh, here I am going on about my loneliness or my relationship again, or whatever it may be. Although it's not done Adele any harm. Whereas Where the Wild Things Grow really is kind of a bit more out there and a bit harder to pin down kind of exactly what it's about. So when those words came and that song came together, I thought, oh, this is something a bit different, and people can. There is great songs where you can kind of draw your own conclusions and paint your own picture to them. Whereas the songs where the meaning is a bit more direct and obvious still very much have their place, but I guess they sort of limit the appeal to people who can relate to them.
I read that you said you were thinking of Morris Sendak and Stanley Donwood's Radiohead art. I thought that was very interesting. Can you expand on that?
Yeah, I really love the film adaptation of Where the Wild Things Are, Morris Sendak's book, and there's definitely an element of that in my head when I was writing the song. And the Stanley Donwood sort of world that he created around Radiohead, I guess. I'm trying to think of the album, the sort of In Rainbows and Hail to the Thief. That's the era that I think of. And the There video where Tom York's kind of that sort of stop motion in the woods kind of thing.
Yeah, a bagpiece. It's like
bagpiece. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that I enjoy that slightly out there and almost science fiction kind of ideas.
And the track Flowers, a bit more melancholy here. It's about inspired by a documentary about a flower seller in Aleppo.
Yeah, I just found the documentary incredibly moving, and I think the stoicism that they displayed with just this absolute hell going on around them, but still able to get up each morning and set up this stall. So the lyrics are very much directly inspired by that situation. But it's basically a flower seller in Aleppo in Syria, and the family and this flower stall had been passed through the generations and had managed to survive the political turmoil and all-out war that Syria's kind of suffered from for so many years.
Another one of my favourites, Dead on the Money, song about being flat broke, you say?
Yeah. I think it's I like the sort of dual meaning of it, like dead on the money, as in literally dead on the money, kind of haven't got any money left, but also on the money as in precise and perfect, which I guess is, although financial problems can be incredibly difficult to navigate and just a huge source of stress, the most important thing is to kind of be with the right person to help you navigate those things, and keep and stay optimistic and try and see the sort of light at the end of the tunnel rather than the darkness that you might be in at the specific time.
What song on the album do you feel most connected to today? I'm sure it changes, but what comes into your mind now?
After the Rain is one that always stays with me, because I think it's got a very simple sentiment that I guess I hope will resonate with people. This idea that the things that matter are the things that survive the storm, basically, are the things that survive the little bumps in the road or whatever. And it came together really quickly. So it some songs just don't feel like work. Writing them doesn't feel like work. And like, obviously, most aspects of making music are enjoyable. None of it feels like work in terms of an office job or something more mundane. But there's still moments where it's quite hard to find the chord or to perfect the melody or to perfect the lyric. Whereas After the Rain was one of those songs that was just almost arrived fully formed, like the verse, the chorus, the bridge, everything just flowed. And you listen back and think, was that a fluke? Like, is there anything we can find wrong with it or anything that needs finessing? And it's just like, no, it all works. And I really think those moments are special.
And you said doing what you do doesn't seem like work. So when you're a songwriter and you're writing songs, and you've written for other people before as well, do you have to set a certain time of day aside? Do you have a routine every day, or do you just wait till something comes into your head?
Yeah, I guess usually I do set a little bit of time aside. Our daughter has started nursery now, so that creates that kind of almost forced period where it's like, well, these are the 2 days that she's at nursery. So my girlfriend gets on with her work, her art and design stuff, and I just sit down with the guitar and enjoy the peace and quiet rather than the beautiful chaos and madness that ensues whenever Cherry's kind of running around and sort of throwing plasticine everywhere or whatever she's doing.
I'm sure you have to keep your guitars well out of the road.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah. I guess that kind of necessitates doing a lot of stuff at night as well. It's like you have to wait until she's fast asleep and then work quite quietly. So I get maybe that informs some of the more sort of tender moments on the album as well, because it's literally having to write and create as low a volume as possible.
Once an album's done and it's finished and it's in the can, how do you feel in the run up the album being released? Is it excitement, nervousness?
Yeah, I think a mix of both. I guess it's got slightly easier over the years because I think the pressure on the early albums was so much more. Like there was literally, there were so many people who were invested in the records and they'd spent this money on videos and marketing and God knows what. So almost like you couldn't afford for it to fail, basically. Whereas now, it's a bit more like we've already established ourselves as a band. So there's no way that the album not quite connecting could do a huge amount of damage, but it's still kind of will affect you if this thing that you've worked so hard on and spent so much time on is has its little day in the sun and then is sort of brushed under the carpet or whatever soon afterwards. It is quite a nerve-wracking thing. But yeah, I guess like anything really, the alternative is not to try. It's like the risk of failure or the risk of people not connecting with it is always there. But then maybe the risk of just not putting anything out there or playing it too safe is also isn't the way to go either.
I remember seeing an interview with Noel Gallagher, and he was asked, what if this album isn't a success? And he said, I'll just write another one.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's not that easy, is it?
No, I think I suppose it's like any kind of difficult moment that you go through in your life. It's like you release an album and it doesn't do as well as you'd hoped. And it will affect you for a considerable amount of time, but you do have to kind of pick yourself up and get on with the next one and sort of get your hopes up again. Really, I think there's no. The alternative is just to be really pessimistic and, like I say, just not kind of bother doing anything because that risk of failure and disappointment is there. And I think it's one of those things where social media is really important because if it doesn't connect with, like, if you don't get loads of great press, if you don't get loads of radio, it still means something if people message you on Instagram or Twitter or wherever it may be and just say, I've got the album, it's amazing, these are my favorite tracks. And that sort of direct connection or a particular song resonates with them because of something that they're going through. That sort of personal, without wanting to be too cheesy and sentimental, that personal connection really means a lot. And you didn't really get to hear about that before. It was more like I say, if an album didn't sell massively or if it didn't get great reviews, there wasn't any other metric for you to get your kind of lift your ego or make you feel validated in what you're doing. Whereas now there is that, you do get those personal messages and those kind of, that sort of connection.
Yeah, yeah. Social media can be very toxic, but it is good that people are messaging in that sense. On the flip side of
Yeah,
it,
yeah, definitely. I think it's, like you say, it's responsible for a lot of ills in the world, but it's also responsible for a lot of good and a lot of connection and community. And I think it's like any sort of form of communication. There's bound to be people who abuse it and get the worst out of it, and then there's people who bring the best out of it as well.
absolutely. Starsailor have released 5 albums prior to Where the Wild Things Grow, so I'm going to mention each one. I'm going to mention each one. Can you tell me briefly what immediately comes into your mind when I mention it? So, first of all, Love Is Here.
Debut, Where It All Started, and I guess Innocence and Learning. That was the album where we learned a lot, and we kind of we felt like pupils in the studio, and I think increasingly we felt more like equals with the producer and whoever was there. But on that album, because we'd never done anything like that before, it was all very exciting, and we were a bit more sort of led by the producer on that record.
Silence Is Easy.
Oh, that's a 4 to the floor. that song kind of changed our life in a lot of ways. Like, opened us up to a new audience. Yeah, the dance remix just blew up in France and gave us a lot of. There's a lot of time going back and forward to France, doing shows and doing their version of Top of the Pops. Is a crazy time. Obviously, the turmoil of working with Phil Spector and the subsequent darkness that kind of sort of clouded that experience. And obviously, the sort of thing of working with him is, like I say, was kind of pales into insignificance really compared to what happened afterwards and what. It's a difficult subject to talk about, and the track "Silence Is Easy," that
Belter.
that sort of defiant anthem to our detractors, really.
On the Outside.
L.A. Rob Schnaff, and I think sonically, at least, there may be better songs on "Love Is Here" and "Silence Is Easy," or is that the right way to say it? Yeah, I think "Silence Is Easy" and "Love Is Here" are better records, songwriting wise. Like just about overall, the kind of they sort of edge it in a way. I think sonically that On the Outside is the best album. Like it really sounds good. And On the Outside is obviously a huge part of that. It's probably the most difficult album to make in a way, or to write in a way, because I think we were exhausted after the Love Is Here and Silence Is Easy periods that were just relentless, and that created a lot of pressure. And it was, like I say, music's never like work in terms of slogging it out. But I think that record was quite a difficult quite a difficult birth, if I should say.
All the plans?
Back with Steve Osborne, who produced Love Is Here. Again, it wasn't the easiest album to make. It was a bit sort of stop-start. Like, we'd think we were getting somewhere and then listen back to stuff and go, no, we can do better than that. We can push ourselves a bit more. But ultimately, it's with like Tell Me It's Not Over and the track All the Plans. Yeah, You Never Get What You Deserve as well. There's some great songs on it. And it did. We wanted to do something that kind of harked back a little bit to the Love Is Here period, but also we brought the experience and the emotion and subject matter that we had at the time, and I think we sort of managed to find that right balance.
And then you had a break for a lot of years, and you came back in 2017 with All This Life. What can you tell me about that?
That's the Divorce album. Yeah, that's yeah, and that's obviously Rick McNamara was a huge part of that as well. Not the Divorce, the album.
Oh, exclusive.
So yeah. But he brought a lot to the table, kind of thing. His musical and production ability, his great guitar playing, and yeah, that was the album that was me working through the end of this relationship and sort of trying to find some sort of therapy through music. And yeah, it was really enjoyable to make, and again, the songs came together quite quickly and in quite a good way. And the song at FIA, I'm particularly proud of because it's a bit of a departure for us as well, because it was more built on a loop and playing around with sounds and throwing things into the pot and seeing what we came out with, rather than the more traditional sitting down with an acoustic guitar and crafting a song, the lyric and the melody and everything all sort of ready to go. This song kind of grew and emerged from this sort of sonic experiment.
I'm going to put you on the spot here. If people want to understand Starsailors music, what are the 5 songs they should listen to?
That's a good question. It's a good question because there are kind of different facets, I guess. To Good Souls would have to be one.
Yep.
For the kind of message and the sort of triumphantness of it. Good Souls. Fall to the Floor.
The remix or the original version?
Probably the original version, just because I have to credit Jacques Leconte, Stuart Price with a lot of the remix. Well, all of the remix, really. I guess it's our song, so we did play that part in it, but sonically it's all his work. So Fall to the Floor. And again, that's that really represents that era of Starsailor, like the strings and everything were a big part of that era. After the Rain, again, from the new record, because it's very much yours and very effortless in that respect. Tie Up My Hands. I feel like that kind of that sort of emotional side of the band seems to really resonate with people. And Way to Fall, is and that kind of reached a new audience with Hideo Kojima including it in the Metal Gear Solid games. So that's kind of given that song a real longevity, and it's a song that can survive different iterations. Like sometimes we do it really heavy, and sometimes, like on the reissue, I play it like as gently as I possibly can, and it really works in that respect as well.
I like to ask my guests the following questions, James. For us music fans, music is the soundtrack to our memories. What song or album, when you listen to it, brings back the best memories for you?
Which song or album brings back? Oh, the Charlatans Telling Stories album. It's just me when I was 18, kind of when music is just, it's always remained exciting, but I guess you can never recapture the excitement of being able to see bands and go to festivals and things on your own or with your mates for the first time. There's nothing beats that, and seeing the Charlatans at Tea in the Park and V festivals is just incredible, really. And that album came out kind of roughly around that period, and yeah, just hearing that opening riff to North Country Boy never fails to kind of lift my heart and lift my mood.
Yeah, it's a great album. I love the Charlatans myself, but in my opinion, my favorite era of the Charlatans is from Some Friendly between 10th and 11th. Maybe get into Up Their Hips and the likes of Indian Rope and stuff like that. I just love that period of the band.
Excellent. Yeah, they're all sort of amazing records with very unique kind of there's unique sort of eras to the Charlatans, like the Wonderland kind of Curtis Mayfield type stuff was a real departure from them that really worked as well.
If you could go back and relive one musical moment from your career, what would it be?
There's probably different answers to that, because there's some moments that you want to relive because they were so amazing, and there are moments that you want to relive because you think you do them better.
And what comes into your mind that you would do better?
Glastonbury. I feel like I was very nervous, and I think we still gave a good performance, and but I just remember being very nervous, and it all happening in a bit of a whirlwind, and it'd be amazing to sort of relive that again with the sort of renewed calmness and confidence. But the moment that I'd love to sort of relive again because it was so amazing was we headlined a festival in Leuven in Belgium, and played in the town square, and yeah, that was just amazing to kind of finally get to play at a festival when the lights were down and the sky was black. Was pretty incredible. And we had the Sugar Babes were on before us. It was a weird lineup. It was like us, the Sugar Babes, and Body Count, which is Ice-T's sort of metal band or rock band kind of thing. It was mad.
Sounds like it.
Yeah.
And you're going on tour. You're taking the album on tour in March. Are you going to extend it throughout the year?
Hopefully, yeah. And I keep doing solo gigs as well. I keep busy sort of doing that. I think, yeah, the band stuff is just that bit, takes a bit, that bit more organizing. So, we tend to kind of do little tours, and then, they're a bit more sort of, there's a bit longer gaps between them. Whereas the solo gigs, you can play somewhere that's sort of 100 or 200 people every year, whereas you can't really play a sort of 1,000, 2,000 venue every year. So the band stuff is, like I say, is a bit more, it takes a bit more planning, and I guess it depends on the success of the album as well. If the album does really well, and like the tour we're doing is quite kind of dipping a toe in the water, sort of fairly small, low key venues to see how people take to the new material, and hopefully if they take it to their hearts, then come November, December, there'll be that sort of demand for us to go out and do some bigger venues as well.
The last one, James, what's left on the musical bucket list for the band? What's the ambitions for the band going forward?
For me, I think that's a good question. To get back into America would be good, to kind of make some sort of impact over there again, because we don't feel like we ever really gave it a proper go. And yeah, I'm trying to think. I guess another big festival appearance would be good as well, to get to Glastonbury again, or Isle of Wight, or Victorious, or sort of. I'm trying to think what it's called now. The Transmit, the big festival in Scotland. To have one of those moments again, because it's one of those things where like the loyal fan base have remained loyal, and they've been amazing to us, and given us a long career basically, which we're eternally grateful for. So it'd be nice to be in the living rooms or whatever of the casual fan who might just hear us and go, "Oh, I remember Starsailor. I saw them at university or whatever, who'd maybe forgotten about us or put us to the back of their mind."
So, James, is there anything you'd like to mention before we wrap up? Anything else coming up in the immediate future?
Yeah, I guess just looking forward to the tour. It's only a little tour. We're doing Leeds, Bristol, Edinburgh, Sunderland, a couple of other places. We're doing Amsterdam and Brussels as well. So if you fancy coming to see us, then the tour dates are fairly easy to find. And just really excited to release the new record, and hope people enjoy it, and that the hard work that we put into it is worth it. Because I guess like there are a lot of bands and artists who are very content with kind of that ethos of like, well, if anyone else likes it, it's a bonus. Whereas I feel like I would, like I said earlier, I'd be quite disappointed if the people that have been, particularly the people that have been loyal to us and have supported us all these years, if the album didn't connect for whatever reason, then I'd be disappointed with that. So hopefully it goes the opposite way and people kind of take it to their hearts.
Well, I'm sure they will, because it is a great album, and as I told you, I relate to quite a lot of it. So, and
Thank you.
really enjoying it, and I've been playing it quite a lot.
Nice one. It's good to chat to you.